Hello everyone, I'm Wendell Jones and welcome to this special edition of the program Jones and Company. On this program today we are going to look at the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the Port Group Limited, and we'll discuss what is happening in Grand Bahama in the face of the global challenges that we have. The Grand Bahama Port Authority has a new mission statement, and it is to better the lives of the Grand Bahama community and, by extension, the Bahamas through the unique features offered by our island. That's the new mission statement. And on the front of this brochure that I am holding, it says, "Making it happen." Well, today on this program, we're going to talk to two gentlemen who are making it happen, we believe, in Grand Bahama. Our guests on the program today are the new chairman of the Port Group Limited, Mr. Babak, and the new chairman, a new president of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Mr. Ian Rolle. Gentlemen, welcome to our program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And let me congratulate you both for the new appointment that you have. Thank you very much for being here today. Let's begin with your roles as the officers of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and I guess you will tell me where you are crossing over. The chairman of the Port Group Limited, Mr. Babak, what would be your responsibilities?
My responsibility is to bring new business to Grand Bahama, to locate business that fits on Grand Bahama and would be the right ventures that we should enter here. And it has a lot to do with what it has to offer. When the business comes here, that's where Mr. Rolle then will take that over to implement it in Grand Bahama and go into the operation of the business. And there's, of course, also an overlap. And that's very important, is that we both work very well together, what we do. And I think Mr. Rolle is then better to explain where his part is.
Yes, perhaps, Mr. Rolle, you can tell me, in your position as president of the Port Authority, what would be your role?
Well, my role is simply to manage the day-to-day operations of the company. And I'm going to put in initiatives. My goal is to put in initiatives to make some things happen. That mission statement that you see on that book, that actually was a vision that I had 3 years ago in regards to how I feel the Port Authority should be operated. And God has it in such a way that I am now in the chair of the president to make some things happen and to make that mission statement a reality.
You're a very young man, and you succeed Mr. Miller and others who have been in this position and who have been the makers and shakers in Grand Bahama. What skills and talent do you bring to the position?
Okay, one, I'm also involved in business. I have a very successful, I have an interest in a very successful company. I don't want to get into it at the moment. However, I would like to let everybody know it doesn't conflict with any business the Port Authority is doing. I'm also a certified public accountant. Okay, I'm a people's person, and I think I'm also a visionary type person. And I think those skills are necessary for the movement of this city.
Both of you probably can answer this question. Things are pretty dead in Grand Bahama. I drove around before this interview, and the person who was driving the car told me at about 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's a weekday morning, it looked like a Sunday morning in Grand Bahama. Tell us, why is the Grand Bahama economy seemingly in the doldrums?
So I would say that, of course, we know the whole world economy faces a lot of challenges right now. And these challenges didn't stop for Freeport. But we are not sitting back and watching what is happening. And we have teamed up right now to make significant changes and to face these challenges. And we have an action plan to answer that. And I think you said you drove to an area and it was very quiet. Mm-hmm. Not every area is that quiet. Okay. And I think that there are great companies that have to bring great assets already have started their business here, like the Ross University. They have a significant amount of students that is growing every semester, and we just had the opening of the same university. We had the opening of the glass company, Fenner Street Glass Company. They came to us with a business plan to employ 20 people. They already employ 65, and within the next 12 to 14 months, this number will triple. So I think that our focus is to bring more businesses like that to Grand Bahama.
So, Mr. Rolle, tell us, what is the present state of the economy in Grand Bahama?
Well, I think like most places in the world, we are in a recessionary period. I think, like Mr. Babak said, we're not sitting back and just accepting that. We want to put a plan forward. I started to mention this vision that I had 3 years ago, and with the mission statement to better the lives of persons in Grand Bahama and by extension the Bahamas. And what I meant by that too is I want to focus on the basic needs of people, okay? And what I did, I broke these needs up into categories such as food, shelter, education, health, and wealth. So the idea now is for us to formulate various initiatives under these categories to affect the economy locally in the Grand Bahama and by extension the Bahamas. Let me give you an example. There was an opening recently of a company, a glass company called Fenestration. This type of business will fall under my category that I call shelter. What it does is this company benefits from the tax exemptions that we offer here in Grand Bahama. But what it also does, it allows businesses now and residents to benefit from the lower cost of the windows that are now manufactured in Grand Bahama. So the whole model is to do things here to benefit the entire Bahamas. So now one can have a cheaper glass not only here but exported throughout the whole Bahamas.
The Grand Bahama Port Authority was established through the Hawksbill Creek Agreement of 1955. There are some detractors who say that that particular agreement is passé, that it's not relevant today, and that Grand Bahama has perhaps moved beyond the capacities that the Grand Bahama, that the Hawksbill Creek Agreement provides. Tell us, is the Grand Bahama Port Authority, the model that was established in 1955, still relevant today?
Yes, and I'll tell you, I'll go right back to this vision. Even, I think it's quite relevant, especially based on the plans that we have. If the idea is to attract certain businesses here who, through manufacturing or some other arrangement, due to the benefits that the Hawksbill Creek Agreement offers us, if the idea that we share, and the Hawksbill Creek Agreement allows this type of activity to happen, the whole idea is for us to benefit the lives of people in the whole Bahamas. Okay, so this is just the stage. This is the stage and just key to the further development and future development, not only of Grand Bahama, but the entire Bahamas.
Freeport is considered to be a company town or a company city. And so when I talk about the model, these company cities or company towns in the world, based on the stressors of the global economy, it makes it very difficult for companies to run cities. Do you think that that is true, or disabuse me of that notion?
No, I would think that the role is to make it with less red tape and to enable business in Grand Bahama, be it business that comes locally or from Bahamians, or be it business that comes from abroad. And there is more the function that you have to address to Mr. Rolle of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, but I can give you an example. Bahamian who applies for a license gets, as soon as he submits all necessary documents, a license within about 3 weeks. And I, being born in Europe, can tell you I don't know a place in Europe where you can get your license in 3 weeks. I don't know a place in the States, and I also don't know a place anywhere in the Caribbean. So I think it is an asset, a big asset.
But isn't it a problem, though, Mr. Rolle, of having to deal with two authorities, two governing bodies, if you please, the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the government of the Bahamas? And some people believe that having to deal with these two bodies dissuade some local and foreign investors from participating in the Grand Bahama economy.
Well, for the most part, the local persons who want to do business in Grand Bahama, they more or less, they get a license from us. So there's no second hurdle. And as Mr. Babak said, we give licenses to those persons who would have filled out the correct information, provided us with the correct information within a 2 or 3 week period. I think that is something positive that we should continue to stress. I don't think the public is quite aware of the fact that we're trying to even decrease that time. Okay, as far as the international players, I see it also as a benefit to, by having us involved, because we do a lot of due diligence that we share with government, and of course the government, if the person is an appropriate person for the Bahamas, they would allow this entity or the person to operate from here in Grand Bahama. So I really don't see any negative. I don't see any negative at all. And the more we do due diligence on international players, the less risk for us all.
This is a special edition of the program Jones and Company, and I'm speaking today with the President of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Mr. Ian Rolle, and the Chairman of the Port Group Limited, Mr. Hannes Babak. We take this break here and we'll come right back. We're back here on this special edition of Jones and Company, speaking with Hannes Babak, Chairman of the Port Group Limited, and Mr. Ian Rolle, the President of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Gentlemen, foreign direct investment to the Bahamas, and indeed to Freeport Grand Bahama, is very important. And Mr. Babak, I'm told that on that side, the international initiatives, that you would play a great role. Are there plans for marketing the Bahamas and Grand Bahama in particular in the international community?
Absolutely, yes, is the right answer. What we have to do is we really have to sit down, and we did that already between Mr. Rolle and myself, as well as the management team, to define the position of Grand Bahama. There is obviously certain areas where we are the perfect location for business. But on top of that, and I'll give you an example for that, like Ross University and like any educational business, this is a business that's perfect for right now. If you have a recession or a stagnation in many areas in the world, they need retraining. If you have a very well working economy, you don't have that much retraining because everybody has that job. So we have to define and locate that kind of business. And another area is, for example, medical treatment. The medical tourism has been the largest and fastest growing industry of last year. This is an area where what is relatively young, and we would not jump in the last wagon of the train, we would be sitting in one of the first wagons of the train. And these are the areas we're expanding our search and research to know what is the best way to offer that outside.
So the marketing thrust then of Grand Bahama is dealing with educational opportunities in Grand Bahama. Grand Bahama started out as an industrial kind of city. and I'm not hearing anything about attracting industry to Grand Bahama.
No, of course we do our industry. I just gave you an example of areas we have already defined.
Okay.
But to go out and be most effective, we need to really have also the right consultants. They will not do our job. They will work with us, and we work with them to define what are the areas where Grand Bahama has to offer the most. And it doesn't matter now if it's for education or it is for industry, be it light or heavy industry. It has to be what has it to offer at all. And only if we make this definition finally, we then can go out and most effectively market Grand Bahama.
Where's tourism in all of this? The tourism plant in Grand Bahama seems to be limping along. There is the Al Lukaya Hotel, and I'm told that Isle of Capri, the casino, is having its problems and is going to close very soon. Where is tourism in your international marketing thrust, and how do you square that with the industrial kind of business that you're seeking to attract to Grand Bahama?
We have to see that Grand Bahama is in the lucky position that it can accommodate both. We always say there's that line in Grand Bahama called the Mall, and everything west of the Mall towards the harbor, that is absolutely dedicated for industry. Mm-hmm. If you go east and you go to the beaches, that is the area that is sought for tourism. Mm-hmm. And that's where tourist project happened in the past. But also for tourist projects counts the same thing then for industry, that we have to now very quickly go and say, what are the best tourist projects that we can offer? And which are the right hotels and the right operators and the right leaders in the industry that can we attract? So that is what is and will be our action plan.
Royal Oasis is. Oh, you want to?
I want to add to that. I think something that will affect the tourist business in Grand Bahama tremendously. It's an initiative that we've been working on actually last week. Mm-hmm. We had a few meetings. It's the cruise ship or the cruise port, the cruise ship facility. We have a number of cruise lines who pass Grand Bahama by on their way to Nassau, and for a number of reasons they don't stop here. I mean, one particular reason is the facility that we have is not acceptable to the customers who are aboard these ships. There is some talk right now about relocating the cruise port, which will have an immense impact on this economy. Once we do that, I think you'll see our tourism numbers start to skyrocket.
The Royal Oasis is there, and we see weeds growing up, and they're getting taller and taller. Ms. Babak, what is going to happen?
I think the crisis in the banking sector also didn't stop for Harcourt. But as we were ensured that Harcourt will in due course, that means in very soon this year, be in a position to start the project again. That
is an assumption, or that is a promise?
Both.
The tourism plant in Grand Bahama, I am told, needs some attractions. That tourists come to Grand Bahama and they find little to do. There aren't many attractions in Grand Bahama. Isn't this something that you, Mr. Babak, should be working on in conjunction with Mr. Rolle, the President?
Yeah, absolutely. See, Mr. Rolle has started to say about the cruise ship project. Yes. Mm-hmm. And we can only get the cruise ship project successfully if we offer a broad variety of excursions. And these excursions don't have to be exclusively available for the cruise ship clients. that will be attractions. They will be available for all tourists coming to Grand Bahama. And that's where we will have initiatives to support young Bahamians to start up their own business. And we will guide them and help them to make it successful.
You both are running an area in the Bahamas that is very important. There are tens of thousands of Bahamians who are living in Grand Bahama, and a goodly number of them working in the Freeport area. Many Bahamians are watching you this evening, sitting in their easy chairs or whatever, and they need to be told or to know that there's something in the future for them. Can you assure them that the economy of Grand Bahama is going to improve, that the environment for investing in Grand Bahama is going to improve in the short term?
Yes. We're working on a number of initiatives right now that will help stimulate the economy. Let me just name a few. We have a program called the Build Now program. And what that would do, that will allow residents to build their dream homes sooner than a 7-year period. And what's the significance of the 7-year period? In-house, we have a in-house financing program whereby you pay for a parcel over a 7-year period, and then we give you title to the land to build. What we intend to do is to give people access to the land sooner than the 7-year period. And how are we going to do that? Simply have the banks give the title to the banks, and the banks will then give us monies during the drawdowns. And what will that do for the economy? Now we have contractors who weren't doing much. Now they are able to build many more homes than waiting around, waiting on this recession to somehow give way. So the intention is the Build Now program. Also, we want to introduce a 50% discount to all our retail licensees. So the cash flow that they can save can go to create more innovative things in their business. Right now, we want to encourage innovation, okay? Because this is the time to dig deep and think, and also this is the time to also partner with people, because we can't do it alone.
Your building program sounds very good, Mr. Rolle, but the average Bahamian worker will tell you that in order to build, they need a job. Jobs need to be provided in order to afford the homes.
Yes.
Prospects for jobs?
Yeah, well, fenestration. We go back to the fenestration, the glass company. That company came here just to make windows. Now they want to make the rubbers for the windows. They want to do some other initiatives. And I think they had such a good experience here so far, they now want to tell their friends to come and do business. So fenestration might have how many employees now?
65.
65. And within the next year they want to have up to 200. Okay, so we are working on initiatives like this to create jobs.
What is the perception, Mr. Babak, of the international investor, the people that you speak with, of Freeport Grand Bahama? What comes to mind? What are they thinking about when you approach them about investing in Grand Bahama? What are their concerns?
They're very eager to learn about Grand Bahama, because for most of them, they didn't know about Grand Bahama. So they need to know, where is it? What does it have to offer? What is the Roxbill Creek Agreement? What are the advantages under this agreement? This is exactly coming back what I said before. We have to have an easy to read brochure.
Are you suggesting then that in the past that your marketing efforts, your PR efforts weren't working?
I would suggest that we could make it much better in the future. And it's not about the past. Everything is about the future. So we should say, and if you would have had the best marketing plan in the past, last year you would have to change that plan. Because last year what happened all over the globe makes everybody change their business plan. So I think it's a great chance for Mr. Rolle and myself right now to start. We don't have to change our plan. We just have to create a new plan, and the plan will work.
You are creating a plan, so your strategic plan for Grand Bahama is not yet in place. And if it is not yet in place, give us 2 or 3 things that might be included in that overall strategic plan for Grand Bahama.
Well, like I said before, we're very new to our office. But like I said before, back to these initiatives in regards to bettering the lives of persons in the Bahamas. The plan is to focus on the basic needs of people. It could be local, it could be international. Okay, we know there are certain businesses that will thrive in good or bad times. So, for instance, a roofing company, or the window company again, or manufacturing of food. People have to eat. So, without getting into too much detail, the framework has been created. We just now have to fill it in.
In order for these initiatives to work, I assume you're going to need the full cooperation of the government of the Bahamas. You need to work in tandem with Ministry of Tourism and the other departments and ministries in the government. What is your expectation of the government of the Bahamas in your overall plans to develop Freeport and to move it forward?
Well, I would like for us to continue to enjoy the relationship that we currently have, and to even make it a lot better than it is. It's very good at the moment, but the intention is to even foster a better relationship. I think both the Grand Bahama Port Authority and government have a vested interest in the growth of this island. Okay? In fact, we've been in office a little over a week now, and we had 1 or 2 issues that needed to be addressed by government, and they were absolutely great in resolving them.
Mr. Babak, there are some Bahamians who I speak to in New Providence who, for instance, say that there needs to be reform of government and things need to move faster. There's too much bureaucracy, too much red tape in dealing with the government of the Bahamas, whether it's on immigration matters or other matters dealing with foreign direct investment in the Bahamas. Do you see any need for reform of the way we do things, any adjustments necessary?
I think any business always needs a bit of an adjustment, but I don't see that. I don't agree with that criticism of your friends in Nassau. And I would think we are here in Freeport. We work, as Mr. Rolle said, in an excellent way with government, and we cannot complain.
Well, it's good to hear that. Let's take this break here on this special edition of Jones and Company as we continue our discussion with Ian Rolle, President of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and Mr. Babak, who is the Chairman of the Port Group Limited. We come back after these messages. We're back here on this special edition of Jones and Company, and speaking today with Hannes Babak and Mr. Ian Rolle of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and Mr. Babak being the chairman of Port Group Limited. Gentlemen, job creation again. There are signs that there is need for some improvement in the for the aesthetics of Grand Bahama. Is there any plan to revitalize the downtown area of Freeport?
Yes, we're going to launch an initiative called Downtown Turnaround on the 1st of April. We want to breathe new life into the downtown area. We had a survey done in-house just to let us know, to inform us what the issues are regarding launching this initiative. There are 3 main issues that have been highlighted. 1, vagrants. We have a vagrancy problem. 2, there is need for additional security. And 3, Most of the tenants feel that a little cosmetic job too will help tremendously in attracting persons to the area. Now let's deal with first the vagrancy issue. We, Port Group, we have a number of buildings that may not be in use at this time. So the idea is for us to look to see how suitable a building is. If the building is suitable to house the vagrants, we intend to give the building to an organization such as the Christian Council, and also give them free water to the establishment. Now, the program can't be successful unless I think there's also a rehabilitation part to this thing, because we just don't want to have a building to feed people and provide them with food and drink. It needs to be more than that, because most of these vagrants, they also have drug problems, alcohol issues. So the idea is to try and rehabilitate them in some form or fashion so they could be productive members of society. Security. The police have agreed to intensify their presence in the downtown area. One of the challenges they've mentioned us is transportation. During one of the revitalization meetings, I suggested, instead of using a golf cart, which cannot move freely on the pavements, etc., what if we use devices called segways? Now, the Segway is a very innovative piece of equipment. You have persons using these type devices in high-end malls, etc. So the idea is for the police to now be transported on these devices. Not only would they be able to access key areas of downtown, but also it's my idea for it to become an attraction. So it's added benefit. And then 3, we have partners such as Paint Fair who have already agreed to give deep discounts for paint, and we hope that other partners will come forth to take part in this positive venture.
So the downturn in the economy of Grand Bahama has caused some social problems?
Yes, I think social problems exist here in Grand Bahama. The downturn, I think it happened even before the downturn. We have people on the streets with mental issues that should be addressed. We just cannot just leave the people there amongst the tenants and other productive members of society, and just leave them without doing anything positive to change their lives.
There's a view that the recession in Grand Bahama started long before the recession in the United States, that after the double whammy of the hurricanes, that has exacerbated a recession that Grand Bahama had in place. Is that so?
I agree with that. I think a recessionary type situation existed even prior to last year or year before in Grand Bahama. Grand Bahama's had some very difficult times over the years, and the hurricanes of 2004, 2005 added to the strain that exists here. But hopefully, if all the partners involved with bringing a project like the cruise port that I mentioned earlier, if that happens, I think we can turn around. We can really turn this place around.
Now, Mr. Babak, I know that the legal problems that existed between the partners of the Grand Bahama Port Authority also caused some trepidation in the minds of members of the public. But I understand that the partners are getting along now. Is that so?
Yeah, you're very well informed, Mr. Jones. I'm very happy that the partners getting very good along right now, and I think that will stay also like that. But what is important for us, they gave us the possibility to make certain changes for the future, and we have now a great board that gives us the direction to operate out of, and as well as there were changes made in management, and I think we have now a really fantastic team to implement all the subjects and all the things we want to do, as Mr. Roll and I were reporting to you today.
I'm looking at the pamphlet of the management team. Very young people, like Mr. Rolle is a very young man. I guess people would wonder whether or not the gravitas exists in that management team to move the company forward. But you were saying that you also have a strong board of directors.
Yes, we do, and it's your worries have not much grounds in that, if I may say so, because right now in times like that you need energetic people, and Mr. Rolle heads a whole team.
So are you suggesting then that the young people with energy are in the day-to-day management, and that there are some other people who have some experience on the board? Is that what you're suggesting?
That I think is a very good balance. You know, you have the energetic people in the day-to-day operation, and you have a very well experienced board that can guide these young energetic people in the right way.
To what extent is this new management team really, for want of a better word, fronting for the board, and do not have the full confidence of the board, and the board is behind the new management team, pushing, and that people like, and perhaps this is a question for Mr. Babak, people like Mr. Rolle is really carrying out the wishes of, say, Albert Miller.
Well, let me answer this. Yes. Because what I shared to you today was a vision I had, and it was blessed by the board of directors.
So they bought into your vision.
They bought into my vision. So it clearly states that it's not an agenda being pushed by anybody else other than me, and they've actually gotten behind me 110%. Because they believe in something that I believe in.
There was a time when the Port Authority appeared to be very community-minded and pushed many initiatives in the community. Edward St. George and Sir Jack Haywood were out there, and the Grand Bahama community seemed to have bought into what the Port Authority was doing, and vice versa. Does that atmosphere exist in Grand Bahama today?
Yeah. One of the things I believe in, I believe that our role in the community is that of one of a servant to the people. Okay? We should be, the people are crying for us to be more transparent and considering the needs of these people. What we intend to do shortly is to launch our website, relaunch it. And that website will more or less let people know who we are, what we do, what we are about to do, and it will reveal certain things that they've been asking for, such as license fee schedule, the cost of living calculation, or what is cost of living. The idea is also to get input from the community, because we want to move this place forward. The more ideas or positive ideas we have, the better it is for the whole country. So this is exactly what this new management team is all about. It's about serving the people.
In the spirit of transparency, Mr. Rolle, let us think about what the licensee's perception is of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. The licensees, they have a particular perception. And as best you can, describe what you think that perception is of the licensees for the port.
Well, I know a number of the licensees, right? And they are very familiar with me. So I can tell you what they think of me and the new team. They believe that we truly are going to make a difference for this island. They believe that we are honest individuals who mean not only Grand Bahama well, but this whole country.
So you're suggesting that the perception of the licensees, that is changing because of the new team?
It is changing because of the new team. That's what I honestly believe.
To what extent are licensees going to, are you going to take into account the views of the licensees for the forward movement of Freeport in particular?
I intend to have more interaction with certain groups in the community. I also mentioned that one of the initiatives with the website, concerning the website, we will invite people to give us ideas. I've just recently launched the same idea inside of the Port Authority with all of my heads of departments. I encourage them now to go to a particular go to a particular website and send an email to ideas@gbpa.com. So it's a new initiative, and I've already seen positive results.
Mr. Babak, you know, Americans have this view of Uncle Sam, and that Uncle Sam is the American government that is breathing down the necks of Americans and extracting taxes from Americans. Does that kind of perception exist in Grand Bahama, where the Port Authority is viewed as a kind of Uncle Sam?
I think it's easy to answer. We don't have any taxes in Grand Bahama. So I think that is already a huge improvement.
No, but you do have fees, licensing fees.
Yes, but we have obligations, we have governing functions, and they have to be financed. And as Mr. Roll said, we are trying now to give as much as we can, also give back to our licensees and involve them in projects, involve them in the future of Grand Bahama. For example, we had just determined and made the decision a week ago or a little more, that any contract over a certain extent of about $100,000 that will be given out from the Port Group Limited or the Grand Bahama Port Authority as a construction contract will be publicly announced in the media. Everybody will be invited who is a licensee and can prove that he is capable for that size of a job. The opening would be most likely right in this room we sit in right now, so that every contractor will be there. When his bid is opened, then all the other bids are opened. That is what falls under transparency. And a bid list then will be, or a tender list will then be done afterwards, that will be handed out to everybody, so everybody knows exactly why somebody was then awarded a contract or why it was not awarded a contract. And I think that's very important, especially in times where some contractors say it's a bit tough right now, they don't have as many jobs as normally, or like in the last couple of years, that they are seeing that the process is completely transparent. Then what we also would like to do is, or we already decided to do, we build infrastructure projects right now. And that is important because a lot of initiatives and a lot of our going out in the world to attract projects, that will take some time until these projects will be realized. But right now we have it in our hands to build, for example, a fish market. We have to decide that we take from funds from the Port Authority and from PGL, that we will build a fish market. And we have invited all the fishermen in all Grand Bahama, it's this week, to come and to join us for a decision-making process. Where should that fish market be, and what should it be, except as not only a fish market, what else can it be? And that's where we want to invite everybody, and then there will be a construction contract that will be then awarded in the form I described earlier, and that will be an immediate impact, employing Grand Bahamians when they need it the most.
You talked earlier about job creation, and in the short term, how many Grand Bahamians do you think might be hired to do the kind of revitalization of the city of Freeport that you envisage?
That's a difficult question to answer.
That's a ballpark kind of figure.
It's still difficult because although we know it's a huge task ahead of us in regards to revitalization, we haven't put a number to it as yet.
Is this going to be a one-time thing, or is it going to be an ongoing process?
It's going to be an ongoing, but the major job is to first we have to do the major cleanup of the downtown, change signage, benches, other aesthetically pleasing type things downtown, So the first part of the project is going to be huge, and then we'll have to maintain it as we go.
This is the final break on the program, and we'll come back after these messages. We're back here in the final segment of Jones and Company, and we're speaking today with the President of the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the Chairman of the Port Group. Young people in Grand Bahama are looking for opportunities, and I believe some of them are inspired and excited by the appointment of people like Mr. Ian Rolle. But what can you tell young people in Grand Bahama about their future and the future prospects for them in Grand Bahama with respect to job opportunities and their own upward mobility in Grand Bahama?
Very good question. One of my initiatives that I will be introducing is in relation to education. What I plan to do, or what we plan to do, basically focus on niche markets where there's a need for more Bahamian participation. And I'll give you an example. We have a sector, land surveying. In the land surveying industry, there are only one or two major players in that industry. I feel that we need more Bahamian participation. So what the Port Authority is intending to do, we intend to give one or two scholarships to young people to go and educate themselves in lucrative markets such as land surveying. Another initiative that we have is to redirect some of our resources as well, and to encourage all kids to be high achievers. So by saying that, what I mean is this: we want to give every student, every the highest performing student in all of the high schools on this island, a scholarship to go on to further their education.
With respect to the remainder of Grand Bahama, there are many young people who are not living in Freeport in particular, living east end or in the west of Freeport, who are also looking for opportunities. And at one time I had spoken with the former president of the port, and he talked about helping communities outside of the Freeport area. Is that something that the Grand Bahama Port Authority can do, to look at places like 8 Mile Rock and the East End Grand Bahama, to see the extent to which the port can bring the largesse of the port to bear on these communities?
Another part of this education initiative, basically, we want to identify buildings in highly populated areas. The poor areas could be east, west, and outfit these buildings with the necessary equipment to allow students to do after-school programs. And of course, we've been in talks also with organizations such as Ministry of Education and other non-profit organizations. We are all in this together, so therefore it has to be a community effort. So we intend not only to touch persons in this Freeport area, but identify buildings in populated areas outside of Freeport. And in speaking with the new gentleman here in charge of the police, he had a very good idea that we agreed to participate in. He wants to have a mobile type piece of equipment, could be a van, outfitted with the necessary equipment again to facilitate the assistance, homework assistance, and have that vehicle go from the length and breadth of Grand Bahama.
The Hawkesbury Creek Agreement was amended many years ago, and an extension given to 2015 for certain incentives for the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Is the agreement adequate for what you wish to do in Grand Bahama moving forward?
Yes, absolutely. As Ian said earlier, the people who did that agreement 50 some years ago had a great vision, and we are right now determining what is the future of Grand Bahama. How can we serve all Grand Bahamians the best? And if we will run in a roadblock that had to do with the agreement, then we have to see how we deal with it. But so far, I haven't found any.
The 21st century is now.
Yes.
And we used to talk about the 21st century. It is now.
Yes.
How competitive is Grand Bahama and Freeport in particular in dealing with the challenges, the various economic challenges that we have in this region of the world? Is there any need for Grand Bahamians to worry about the extent to which Freeport in the Bahamas can be a competitive place and compete more generally with the rest of the world?
I would like to focus again on this cruise port.
The
cruise port. One advantage that we have is our proximity to the United States.
But have we been using that to our benefit?
We have not capitalized on that fully as yet. We intend to, if we move this cruise port to a more palatable place based on the likings of the various cruise lines, they are waiting to bring their ships in here as soon as we could get that up and running.
What do you think that where that place can be? I know where it is now, and one commentator talked about the ride from the port to Freeport being unexciting. Where can that possibly be?
So let me tell you, there's only really two possible locations, both on the south coast. Any further comment would preempt certain negotiations. But both were chosen because there is no issue with the reef, as there is no reef in that exact location. Because when you try to create a cruise port, you have to look into that you comply with environmental, that you also have environmental concerns, what we do have. And when you come in with a ship where there is no reef, you can't destroy a reef. That is a big advantage. And I have also to say that if we say we do the cruise port alone, meaning PGL and GBPA together, we need the partners in the cruise ship industry. But foremost, we need also the agreement with our existing partner, Hutchinson Whampoa, who are partners in the Harbour Company. And we hope we have a great we do have a great relationship, and we hope we have a good solution how we can accommodate all what is necessary to relocate that cruise port.
How excited are the main investors in Grand Bahama, I should say the major investors in Grand Bahama, for the kind of initiatives that you're talking about? You mentioned Hutchison Whampoa, and there have been other people who have been attracted to Grand Bahama. Are they buying into what you people are suggesting, or are you yet to tell them what you are going to do?
Well, I'll tell you about one particular investor, the Fenestration Group. Hannes and myself assisted them tremendously in opening their business, and also to getting approvals from government to do to distribute wholesale. To their amazement, everything happened with amazing speed, but that's only because of our relationship with government as well. And they thought that the partnership that Hannes and I share, now that we are in the various offices within the group, that this place is about to take off.
You are speaking very confidently, gentlemen, as if money is no object, that you have all the resources that you need to make all these things happen in Freeport. True? Yes?
Money is always the object. Me being the past CFO will not say that money is not an object. We have restraints. We also have to ensure, we are in a unique position. We have responsibilities to the people, and we also have responsibilities to the shareholders. Of course, we have to ensure that our shareholders have some sort of reasonable return on their monies. I think that's just makes good business sense too.
We've spoken a lot about foreign direct investment in Freeport, Grand Bahama, and we didn't pay enough attention, I believe, to local Bahamian investment in Freeport. What is the Port Authority or the Port Group doing for Bahamians who wish to continue business and to grow their business in Freeport?
Another initiative that that I recently put forth is to join partners with the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce to form an enterprising center. And what is this enterprising center? The enterprising center is a place where small business persons should go to get the necessary resources in order to, I wouldn't say ensure their success, but to enable them to succeed. This is a place where they should go to get guidance in creation of business plans, to get financial advice, and we want to expand this role as we go, but we cannot do everything all in 1 week.
Empowerment of people in Grand Bahama is essential, Mr. Babak, moving forward. Is the Grand Bahama Port Authority an empowering kind of organization, or the Port Group Limited, empowering people to maximize their potential, and convince us that you are indeed an organization that is committed to empowering Bahamians to be their best and to do their best in Grand Bahama?
Let me comment on that.
Please. First.
In our conversations with a potential investor last week, both Hannes and myself asked the investor to put monies aside.
This is local
venture capital. This is foreign.
Okay.
Foreign investor asked the foreign investor to put venture capital aside to facilitate the businesses that are needed to attract this particular business here. So the idea is for the potential investor to maybe have an interest in the company with a Bahamian until that money is paid back, and then you will have new business and new wealth for Bahamians.
That used to be called fronting, Mr. Rowe.
No, it's not fronting. What it is giving a loan to a Bahamian that has a great idea. I never had the opportunity or the wherewithal to get it from the banks at favorable interest rates.
The government of the Turks and Caicos Islands has a particular land policy that enables Turks Islanders to be a part of an enterprise introduced by a foreign investor in Turks Island or Providenciales. In that way, Bahamians share into the growth of the locale. Land use and the availability of land is very important for Bahamians if Freeport is to grow and local investors are going to maximize their potential. Let's talk about land use and the propensity of the Grand Bahama Port Authority to make land available to locals.
Mr. Jones, I have to say to you that we are in the lucky position that we have a huge landmass in Grand Bahama, and I think different to other islands of the Bahamas or even other countries where there is a density problem. We do not have that, and we have initiatives that also, and we are right now looking into changing certain programs that existed very well in the past, where areas are available only for Bahamians for a favorable price, but we found out that the size of the land is too big for the market. Right now they would rather buy a little smaller piece. So actually Mr. Roll brought that to my attention and said, what's about if we sell smaller lots or smaller parcels, and that would help the Bahamians to build their home. And we have that right now in the makes, and the CEO of DEFCO, Mr. Graham Jarrod, we brought it to his attention that he would be so kind and make certain changes to accommodate those.
This applies to businesses as well.
Yes, absolutely.
We have a mandate to ensure that land is affordable for Bahamians. And me being a Bahamian, I intend to ensure that we follow that mandate.
How soon?
So now, today.
Now.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so very much. We are flat out of time, and I thank you so very much for being as forthright as you have been in this interview today, and we wish you all the best for the future of the Grand Bahama Port Authority and Freeport in particular. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.